Oh, thank you for watching OreAni 2018 End of Summer season. Uh, Hopefully I'm coming across okay. Um, we are running a little bit late. I apologize for that. Today with us we have Albert,
Hello.
Jessica,
Hello.
Nick,
Now with more cookies and cream Kit Kat from Japan.
and me. Hello. So today we're going to be talking about some of the titles and what we love about them and what we hate about them. Starting with Planet With. Wait, is that the whole title? Planet With, yeah.
Pretty much.
Albert has told me on Google Plus via message that it's anime of the season.
Yes. So I did completely pass this up on the first pass, right? The previews, you see the promo art here, and it's got some weird ass cat mecha, a boy and a goth lolly maid. Clearly set in like high school, so I'm like, okay, this is clearly for kids. I don't really care for it, and the summary does a really poor job. And it's able to kind of place. So I think it's placed in the robot, mecha genre, but it's really not. It's far more than that. So I just wanted to go through, and this will, usually we cover like the impressions in the first episode or the at the beginning of the season. We're gonna kind of go over some of that and show you that it's a little bit different than most titles that we're used to. So this is based on a manga author's, and his name is Satoshi Mizukami. He's written several works over the years. Here, this is from his Amazon Japan page of all his titles. So you can see that he has been drawing and writing manga for a while. It's said that his style is that he tends to have kind of anti-slice of life, kind of weird everyday settings. There's a lot of kind of a gag scenes in the middle of very serious settings or story events. And in some of his titles, there'll be a kind of crossover. And you can see that some of the characters kind of look the same. The art's not spectacular, but I find that his stories are very, very interesting. The director for this was Yohei Suzuki. He's a veteran of a JC staff. And I think I skipped over. So for he's done a lot of episode directions and things like that, but he was the director for, in 2013, Hentai Oji to Waroanai Neko, Hen Neko. In 2015, he was the director for Shimoneta. And then 2017, Urara Meirocho. And also 2017, Sword Oratoria is a wrong pickup dungeon, Girls in a Dungeon, Gaiden, right? And a couple other things. So, very competent. And of course, JC staff has created a bunch of everything from good to bad shows over the years. But you can say that, the bad shows are really bad. And the good shows, the animation is great. So there's that. And the show actually was based on kind of a plot summary of some 1,700 pages that the author came up with. So it is essentially an anime original, which is always a good thing for me to check out. And he was heavily involved in the creation of the anime, such that he actually has series composition, head writer credits. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you that episode 1 starts off with a kid having some sort of nightmare about this giant monster. He wakes up and you find out that he lives with a gigantic purple cat named Sensei, or teacher, and a goth lolly maid.
Yeah.
Makes no sense, right? And he goes to school like a normal high school kid, and that's his classmate and class rep. And while having lunch with her, it's revealed that he doesn't have any memories from before his time in this city, right? And pretty soon, air raid siren comes on and says, "Hey, there's an unidentified object in the air. Please take shelter." And it's this ridiculous-looking thing, and you're like, "What is going on?" And 7 people on the docks suddenly appear. They essentially have superpowers. They transform and go flying off in these mecha suits. And by the way, all this mecha stuff is CG, and kind of weirdly janky CG at that, but it's somehow appropriately fitting. And it doesn't really bother me because you're more involved with the story and you tend to overlook things like that. Meanwhile, Soya, the boy Soya is in, the gymnasium taking shelter, and he gets a call from Ginko, the maid, and it's like, "Hey, you need to come out." And he's like, "Why?" "Because you have to fight." And he's like, "What?" That makes no sense. Meanwhile, the heroes, quote unquote, one of them has entered the unidentified object. This is his human form, I guess. And he is in some sort of like a dream state. And over the course of just a few minutes, you find out his backstory. He lost his mother in a house fire. And since then, after, finishing compulsory education, he became a firefighter. And in this dream sequence, he gets to meet his mother and was able to actually save her, right? And, it's very cathartic for him, but he realizes this is not real. It's just a dream, and he has to defeat the enemy, which he does. Later on that day, when he's walking home, he is confronted by, Soya and Sensei, and they're like, "Hand it over, the source of your power." And they get into a fight. So again, CG. And Soya defeats Torai, the young man in the armor, and gets this capsule, right? And so once he gets this capsule, he has some sort of revelation that, no, what he actually saw at the beginning was not some sort of nightmare. That actually is a memory, and that he is going to beat the crap out of these defenders of Earth, right? So right then and there, the first episode kind of sucks you in. It's already subverting some of the hero tropes, right? I mean, the protagonist appears to be the villain of some sort. There's seven good guys. So you kind of think that this is going to be, monster of the week. The kid has to defeat all 7, plus their boss and the secretary that you see in the post-credit scene. So there's 9 of them to defeat. Maybe one of them takes like 2 episodes and there's a wrap up. So, 11 to 12 episodes. That's what you think is going to happen. And in fact, that all takes place in the first half of the series. So pretty tight and really incredible pacing. And each of the characters, both good and bad, have terrific characterizations, their backstories, all of that in very short order. I thought the pacing was excellent. And we go to a site called Anikobin, which lists, I think I've shared this before, it lists a number of episodes that people think are great, right? So they have like a top 100 for the season that you see here. And out of the top 10, number 4, 5, and 9 is Planet Wiz, episodes 9, 10, and 6. Okay, and some of the others on this is the highest is Pocket Monster, Sun and Moon, episode number 90. Steins Gate Zero, episode 21 and 16. High Score Girl, number 9. Gegege no Kitaro, episode 20. Asobi Asobase, episode 10. And Free Dive for the Future, 8. So kind of interesting that 3 of the top 10 is taken up by a Planet Wiz episode. This is kind of like the evaluation that viewers can give, and I kind of summarized it with this. I don't know if it's coming through very well, but basically, from it just keeps getting better and better. The people who are classifying as divine, really excellent, and has a very low so-so score. So at least for the people that watched it, evaluation is great. Like I said, halfway through the episode is where things kind of conclude from what you initially think of this, but in fact the story is far bigger than that, of course. And then there's this yet another like climax in episode 10, and the finale is in episode 12. So really interesting story structure, a lot of twists and turns. It subverts a lot of the typical shonen mecha genre tropes. It draws from other things like the Sentai series and all that. So on Mal, it only has a rating of 7.5 with only 6,000 users voting on it or so. So I think it's criminally underrated, underwatched. I really think it should be watched a lot more. I encourage people to check it out. And I mentioned that the authors has crossover works. So in episode 1, Sensei has like these figures in the room, and this one is actually from one of his other comics, and that's Samidare. Or in the title is the Lucifer and Biscuit Hammer. So it's a 10-volume manga series that I just started reading. There's another scene much later, I think this is episode 10 or 11, where you see this custard pudding that's green, and that's also in one of his other manga. So kind of self-references are in there. There's a lot of jokey material, but it's actually a fairly serious story, and it's a lot more complex. You think it's just good versus evil, but what is that? How do you define good versus evil? What is justice? How do you forgive someone, perhaps an entire race of beings for something horrific that they did? Is this, the punishment fit the crime? So these are all pretty heavy themes that show up in this show that at first glance is just a kid's show, but it really isn't. And I really found the writing to be excellent. So I highly, highly recommend Planet Wiz, and it was without a doubt the best written show for this season. So that's it.
So the things I want to say about this show is I was on it at the beginning because once I saw the references to Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, I instantly looked it up and saw who the writer was and that it was the same person. And I read that whole manga and loved it. The story is great, and even though I had no idea what Planet With would be about, I just knew that if it had the same story or the same writer, it would be great. Another book I think or manga is Spirit Circle, I think.
Yes,
another one that I really love. That one is just amazing, but he does tend to have some things he follows, twists and turns that are kind of predictable once you've read some of his books. So in some of the scenes, I was like, I kind of expected something, but didn't, because I knew from his other earlier works what would happen. But and I think anyone who's read any of his books are the ones that actually followed through with the series and watched it, gave it high marks, and I hope that with as well that more people would pick this up and watch it and enjoy it. And like I can understand episode 6 being on that top 10 because to me that was just a great finale. I was like, oh, this is so good. How could it continue on? And they continued on and did a really good job with it. And I was disappointed going, oh, this is filler or this is just dragging on. But no, they continued with the storyline. They continued on, and even after that second arc, I was expecting some more filler for this time lapse that's going to occur, and they didn't. They just actually just jumped straight to it and continued the story, and I really appreciate that. There's no real downtime in it, but I really enjoyed it because I marathoned it, so I didn't have to wait that next week for the next episode. I think so. My experience with it was just full blast all the time, getting into the characters, just going episode after episode. Was it hard for you as a week to week thing, or?
No, because I watched each episode twice.
Oh, jeez.
Sometimes.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, it definitely didn't really rub me the wrong way waiting a whole week. It's one of the things that I got to sooner because I wanted to know more about the story. So that kind of worked. And I can usually rate how much I like the series by how much, if I'm falling behind in other titles, the fact that I go for this first when it comes out in the week instead of catching up some of my less favored ones kind of is a testament to how good it was. So it's one of the things that I finished, despite me being behind and not finished some other things of this season. And I was going to give my impression of it when you were kind of done asking questions.
Oh, you can go with your impressions. I'm just, there's not much to say just except for watch it. I'm actually saying this to Jessica. Jessica,
I gotcha.
watch this.
Yeah, I'm not denying that it has that mech trait because it really does kind of deserve that, but at the same time, to me, it really doesn't because the characters never feel really robot-y because it's more of an extension of their psychic power. It's like their psychic power escalates and a mech-like suit crystallizes around them, kind of an explanation. Like, they're not very robot-y, but in the sense of it being kind of like a robot-y fighter, it kind of really was, especially towards the last bit. I could have sworn this thing was like animated by that Clover studio, the fork of A1, who just worked with Trigger to make Darling and the Franxx, because this thing had that kind of a feel to it. It's like, dude, I would think that Trigger had something to do with the studio, or this story, sorry. It's probably the studio that worked with him on Darling, although that is not the case. But if I didn't know who worked on it, it's what I really would have thought. And one of the things that I really liked about it was its dialogue. It had a lot of heartwarming moments, especially in its later half. They were a little seldom while the series was being established. But I think that's what helped made a lot of those episodes particularly great. And I really just did enjoy kind of watching this thing because kind of like what Albert, I feel, is saying, it was just a straight up curveball. I was met with this weird cast of characters that I'm like, well, that's weird. And yet they were oddly endearing. And the series was able to come up with these really cool moments for everybody that I wouldn't expect to see from many other series. Normally you focus on your main cast of protagonists, and it had humor, especially with the how the main protagonist would have to charge up the robot suit for flight. It had bits of everything scattered everywhere, and the only thing that kind of held me back with it was, and I agree with Albert, I'm not faulting its pacing at any level. But sometimes when it had those crazy good heartwarming moments, when it would kind of fall into kind of more the slice of life aspect, it would kind of seem a little more droll just because it was doing this crazy cool zany stuff at other parts of the story. You're like, I kind of want more of that. So while I do really love the title all in all, I'm not sure like how quickly I'm going to rush out to buy it as soon as it's available, even though I enjoyed it so much watching it until, through completion. This is kind of like one of my, I'll unfortunately probably buy when it hits, like, because it just wasn't endearing, like, to the values that I find with the anime that I like, but I still really enjoyed, there's a lot of fun to be had with the title, even if it doesn't, like, strike your, like, what you're mostly fanatical about anime with. Like, I do still recommend this one for a wide variety of viewers. I think you will be surprised with the story that it offers.
So
It's not one that's particularly your favorite.
I have a couple questions for you guys, because I didn't see this because I looked at the show's pedigree, and none of the stuff that any of the people were attached to were things that I liked.
Mhm.
So I didn't like Shimonetta, I didn't like Heneko, I couldn't stand Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, and that sort of absurdist humor just isn't my cup of tea. And so when I was watching the trailers and whatnot, and there's this random cat and a random maid, which normally I'm all about the maids, right? And this random high school boy, and I think this is a little too like Excel Saga for me.
Mhm.
That type of humor. So is that wrong? Is it not like Excel Saga?
Yeah, it's massively toned down, like compared to that.
What's that? He's in what? Oh, my. But you see what I mean. So it's not that kind of random crap happening all the time and very.
Yeah. No, I'd say what you're looking at its face value is pretty much most of as weird as it gets. So like you're kind of met up front with that, but it doesn't really escalate from there. It just kind of like, okay, now that we've shown you in the first episode these obscurities, it doesn't get too zany from this. Like when it comes to, I mean, well, yeah, but I mean, like it's not like it continuously tries to one up itself on oddities. It just, and like you kind of come into an understanding of, like I'll just like come out and say this just to kind of like throw it out there. This is almost like a planetary coming of age story where there's out there. This is a small spoiler, but not like a terrible one to the story. There's like a spacefaring race that monitors planets who are kind of getting into that early stage of space exploration, which is kind of where our modern day Earth is. And they kind of count on those planets to have good ethics when it comes to how they interact with other planets. So like the cat guy that looks really weird, he's literally just an alien, and that's like what their alien race looks like.
Okay.
And that's what that is. And that's like the case with a lot of the characters that look weird. And since it presents that information to you, and like it's not just a character who lives on Earth, we don't know why, it is somewhat intrinsic to the story, and it doesn't rub you the wrong way, I don't think.
Okay.
Like once you understand it.
All right. It's on Crunchyroll, right?
Yes, it's on Crunchyroll.
Okay. I will add that to my queue. You guys have convinced me.
At least try it out. I'd look forward to what you thought about it.
Yeah.
Yo. Uh-huh. Right.
I kind of figured that like it was a Zodiac thing because
So you
dragon,
think it's a Zodiac thing,
mouse. Yeah.
but it's actually not, because by the if you look at it closely, there's a bear, and then there's a person-like one, and there's a bird, which is clearly not a chicken, right? So it's based all on their names. So their names. So the tiger one that you see in the lead is Torai. His first name Tora is tiger. I mean, his family name Torai. The Tora is tiger, right? And the rabbit girl is it's a play on words because her family name is Inaba, and there's a famous story called Inaba no Shiro Usagi, which means the hair of Inaba. Yeah. So there's that. The judo girl's name is Kumashiro. Kuma is bear. The senpai judgment is Nezuya, which is a play on words because Nezu is essentially short for Nezumi, which is mouse. So he has a mouse. Benika, the red-haired girl, is Takatori. Taka is hawk. And then Yosuke is Hitsuji Tani. Hitsuji is sheep. And the only one that's a little bit off, the leader of the group is Ryusoji Takashi. Ryu is dragon. So he had the dragon mech. He shows up later. And the old man, his actual father is Ryusoji Takezo, but his mech looked more like a dogu or a Haniwa doll. So that's the only one that doesn't quite match his first name. But, I think it was appropriate. So interesting play on words if you look into it. There are multiple levels, I think, that you can see in the story. So my recommendation to Jessica is, watch the first episode. If it's interesting enough, watch the second episode and see how you feel. At that point, if you don't really care for it, it's not going to change.
Okay.
But if you're all in by episode 2, then you should watch it to the end.
Will do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd almost be, not that I want her to watch all the way through, especially if it's nothing she's gonna like. But I kind of didn't know what I was to think of it because I talked about this thing in the first hangout, and that's only because I wanted to say I don't know what it's gonna be about. It kind of has that synopsis that I talked about, where it was, it had a that many a page manuscript, and I'm like, what does that say to this thing's summary? It's kind of weird. There's plays of amnesia going on. We're very used to that in anime, but I didn't know what it was going to be about. And now that I kind of know what it's about, I like it that much more. But because that mystery is there, I think it kind of delays revealing its true premise right away, because the character kind of becomes aware of something before the rest of the audience is informed, unless you infer it, which you're kind of given a good chance to. But I think it kind of is a little delayed before it starts getting really good. So, but again, if you're really not at all enjoying it by those couple episodes, then perhaps don't continue in. But I don't know. I don't want to tell anyone to watch something that ultimately they won't like. But yeah. 15 times. What was that? You're on a road trip and it's all you had? I'm like, what? Sure.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay, well, just as a precursor, though, before we start talking about it, I actually, now that I have Albert here with me, I said this is one of the series that I kind of hate because no, not the series that I hate, because they didn't try to. Not that I'm saying that if they straightly translated the name, it would make for a better show, but I hate when you rebrand a name sometimes, because you approach this weird duality where if you call something in Japanese and you recognize the Japanese name, you might not know the English edition name because we just had to translate it. So for those not aware, in English it's being called How Not to Summon a Demon Lord, whereas in Japan, in Japanese, it's Isekai Mao to Shokan Shoujo no Dore Majutsu, which I kind of want to ask Albert about this one, but to the best of my ability to read Japanese, we've got Mao Isekai, so demon lords from another world, and Shokan Shoujo. Now, Japanese doesn't really have plurality, so it could refer to the two girls or one of them, but that's a summoning girl. But then we have No, that shows ownership, Dore Majitsu, which Dore is slave, Majitsu is magic. So another world's demon lord and summoning girls slave magic wouldn't make for a great English title, but I don't like calling it How Not to Summon a Demon Lord at the same time.
Oh, Nick, you're so picky.
That's just my rant.
Yeah, I don't really look into it too deeply, although I did end up reading the manga, so I knew exactly where it was going. Yeah, I mean, rebranding, sometimes you do just have to do it because this is a light novel adaptation, right? And the light novels have ridiculously long, stupid titles, and I do mean stupid. So, yeah, sometimes it's just necessary. And, we pretty much... So when we had the previews, I dissed this show, right? And I basically stopped. And then I thought about it and for some reason, I was continuing to watch it, despite its ridiculous, overpowerful main character, whatever. And I pretty much realized this is a stupid, crappy isekai show. It's I'm trying to come up with a good acronym for yet another crappy, isekai anime. But it's if you take it as an isekai anime, it's crap. Okay, but if you watch it as a ecchi show, right, like a fan service show, then it actually is not a bad show. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but pretty much we know here. I've summed it up in a single collage, and that is why you watch this show, for the plot.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of plot.
Yeah. So that is why I put it up. I kept watching it essentially because I was curious to see how dumb it got. And yes, it was pretty much dumb, and it was pretty much embarrassing for, I would say, the author, who really does not have a lot of original thought in his head, right? And I was expecting, at least he'll have like some interesting twist on some. No, he does not. At least there'll be some interest. Nope, there's a big-breasted girl and a flat-chested girl. Okay, maybe there's some cool magic. Hey, there's a new spell called Explosion. Great. So nothing in the show is original. But you know what? If you're just watching it for some ecchi moments and something to turn off your brain, it's not a bad show.
Okay, I do heavily agree, but I also somewhat disagree. Only because this show, in I think it was episode 10, had that one moment where I consider it like a new low of anime, where I had to show people just to get the reaction. Like even non-anime viewers, I'm like, So I finally understand the title of the show, How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. You would normally kind of think, and I'm not saying that I legitimately believe what I'm about to say, but it's just kind of hilarious if I think of it this way, is I don't know if I want to talk about this here. This is so terrible. I don't think I can. I can't.
Yeah, just don't.
Yes, probably. For how he has to summon a demon lord. Not our main protagonist who calls himself a demon lord from another world. I'm talking about how our protagonist had to summon the demon lord out of the lolly cat girl, who's really not a lolly, she's older, but this show had big bust and flat chest for all fans to be happy with. But it reached
girl with glasses
that you kind of have to see, because talking about it is horrible. Watching it is horrible. But it's like this this anime didn't seem like it wanted to be that, like, anime has hit a new low, but it took that accolade from me. Like, I am willing to hand it to this anime. Like, you have this scene that is not easy for me to talk about, and I can't imagine how it would have been written in a book. That's the thing that I'm like, what chapter was this? Because I don't want to go and read this, but I kind of want to know how the author wrote this.
So what exactly happened?
So long story short, and Jessica, I'm gonna censor myself as best as I can here, but this is a huge spoiler to the show, so if you want no spoilers, turn away. At one point, they are led by basically a demon, they're called the Fallen in this world, to the top of the summoning tower, because their way of awakening the demon lord out of the cat girl, because normally it would go, if the bearer of the soul of the demon lord dies, the soul is released. But we don't want to kill the person holding it, and it follows the maternal lineage. So, like, if she had a daughter, it would go to her daughter, and whenever her daughter dies, either the demon soul would get released or her daughter would carry on that baton. But, you know, that's kind of sad. So we don't want to kill the person with the soul. We'd rather be able to pull out the soul and then have a random army ready to fight the demon lord on our best terms. Although that's not what the characters did, they still wanted to free the soul from the person. So they were led to the tower, and they were basically said, like, okay, here, like, put your hand on her and try to fill that demon lord soul with your magic power. If it gets enough magic power, it'll awaken. Okay, so he tries. He puts the hand on her kind of stomach area, because it's kind of getting, you know, and he's looking for the soul, and he barely sees it, and he tries putting magic power in it. Well, upon that, now this is where it gets pretty, like, this is the accolade of the new low. The character goes, you can't find it well enough. Well, if we, like, cut into her stomach, you could, like, have a better connection to the soul and then be able to find it. And they're like, no, like, that would kill her if we just, like, open up this hole into her. And so the demon who is helping them awaken the demon lord goes, well, she's got another hole you could put your hand in. And
They oh my word.
yes.
Wow.
Yes. And while they didn't get showy with it, they didn't come up with another plan either.
Ha. So is this one of those series that a lot of the screen is obscured by the black censor bars?
No. Yeah.
White light
at times, but it's mostly just like self-censored. So there's not too many moments that you actually have to employ light, because, like, either you have hands or something else obscuring the thing. I'm not saying no light's present, but, you know, hair, arms, whatever works. But, yeah.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't call the anime unoriginal, just because it kind of made me go, oh, that's the first time I think I've seen anime do that. That's how you don't summon a demon lord, apparently. The title works. Because although that's what they did, they're not recommending that's what you do, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Uh, guys are horrible with the chat towards me. I just want to tell you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Nothing. Nothing.
Next title.
No. No. Dude,
in his defense, I did ask, so.
Well, but there's like no other way to say it is the bad thing. I'm like, I won't directly come out, but how do you describe it? And it, well, that was pretty. I don't know. You horrible person if it's one of mine. Oh, okay.
Fine. It's Angle moi. Moi, like French moi. It's I believe
French.
it's Angle moi. It refers to a prophecy by Nostradamus that there would be a king of the entire world, and it's an anagram of Genghis Khan's Latin name, I think. I forget. The reasoning is a little circuitous. Thank you. This one, I really wanted to like this show because I love historical anime, especially samurai, because samurai are just awesome, badass. And this one, they made the odd artistic choice to have a filter over the entire thing. And have any of you guys seen it at all? Because if you have, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like a Photoshop filter that covers all of the art at all times.
I checked out one episode, but I don't know if I can strongly recall what you're saying, because then I didn't watch it from there.
Yeah, I've watched half of it, and I have the other half to watch. But yes, there's a filter, and it makes it seem like it's kind of like an old scroll, right? It's the same with kind of when you see like an old black and white movie, and there's static that shows up like a film reel. They're kind of doing that with only with a filter that represents like an old scroll, because this is not set in the modern age. It's even set before the samurai. So it's set in 13th century Japan. Right? Yeah. During the first Mongol invasion of Japan. So
but I don't think it works because it's the same static-y image the entire time. It does not change. So unlike an old film where the static changes, this is, you're looking at the same thing. So I thought that it got in the way of the art, and I don't remember when it started happening, but the animation quality takes a huge nosedive later on. I mean, there are episodes where it's just pictures of just a still image with speed lines over it. And it's really hard to tell where characters are in relation to one another, because they'll use close-ups of, again, the one character's face with only the lips moving, and then they'll do an attack that's just a generic swoosh, and then the character that's getting attacked will fall down, and you have no idea, well, how were they close? Were they far? How did he hit this person? But as far as good points, the main character, Jinzaburo, is very different from the typical action hero in that he had a family, he was married, he had a daughter, and that's not something that we see a lot in anime. So he's older and he has a lot of experience. That was pretty cool. As for the historicity, they take a lot of liberty. Yeah, a lot of liberty. They have the Emperor Antoku alive, which in reality he died at age 6. They invented this kind of super secret clan called the Toibarai, which never existed, in this huge mountain castle that I'm pretty sure the people living on that island would know about if they'd lived there their whole lives. But whatever. So, where am I going with this? I have such mixed feelings about it, but I can't really recommend it because of the odd artistic choices and the poor animation. I also think that Teruhi was written terribly. She does not act like a real human being. There are a couple of times where she kisses Jinzaburo while he's asleep, and the anime tries to play that off as cute, but had their roles been reversed, it would not be cute at all. So, yeah. I don't know. Albert, what did you think from what you saw?
I watched the first 6 episodes, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
and it's yeah, I have a hard time recommending it too. I thought the first couple of episodes were pretty interesting, and it's set in an era that a lot of, far before the Warring States period that everyone wants to show with Nobunaga and Ieyasu and all that, right? So it's an interesting time in Japan where you don't have a lot of media, meaning mass media information. So I thought that was an interesting choice. It is based on a manga series. So yeah, I was curious about things like that, but the except for the main character, a lot of the other side characters seem very stiff and very stereotyped, caricatures. There's that pirate guy that's always violent, there's the sneaking thief guy that's great in the darkness, but he's also stealing stuff while he's at it. All this stuff, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see where this is, going. There's not a lot of foreshadowing. I mean, I guess if you knew the story, you might be more interested because of the changes to the actual historical event. But here, I'm just watching it, expecting, I think that sounds fishy, and yes, that was fishy. Or that plot point doesn't make sense. I bet that's gonna come back and bite them, and yes, it does. So a lot of it seemed a little bit too predictable. It's very, like I said, it is very shonen-esque. You can kind of see the beats coming.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is a shame because this is not a time period that we get to see a lot in anime, like you were saying, because the Heian period was relatively peaceful, and Japan's government was really weak at the time. Is half of the capital was abandoned and uninhabited. That's how bad things were, and they couldn't collect taxes properly. So a lot of the outlying kingdoms and fiefdoms were doing their own thing, and the emperor didn't really have a lot of power. So I was hoping that it would show a little more of that, or at the very least that the battle scenes would be cool. And there's certainly a lot of potential there, except that the production values get tossed out the window. They probably didn't even have 2 yen to rub together as far as the ending went. It got bad.
So sounds like wait for the Blu-rays if you're interested in watching it.
Maybe, but even then, I wouldn't say that it's something that you'd want to pay for. I mean, if anime is supposed to be an infomercial for buying the Blu-rays, then this absolutely fails.
Oh, embarrassed her.
No, it's not quite that bad.
That's funny.
It's more like Speed Racer level, where there's the the whoosh of the katana, and it's the katana on a generic background, so it can be reused over and over. And then there's the speed lines going in. The blocking is really bad too, so it's hard to get a feel of where characters are in relation to one another, which is really important during a fight scene, to know where everybody is and how close they are. There was one part where I didn't realize that Teruhi had gotten knocked on her back during the battle because of the way that it was drawn. And it was a surprise in the end where she got up off of the ground, and it's just, wait, when did she get knocked down? When did that happen? Has she been like that the whole time?
You were playing a cell phone game at the time. Admit it.
No. So yeah, this is one where I might be inclined to read the manga, but I don't know how much of the writing issues that exist are from the manga. If those were just translated from the source material into the anime, or if they decided to change things because some of the characters just don't act the way a human being would act.
That's too bad. I mean, but I'm guessing it's probably straight from the manga. And I could definitely see, sections of this where you're like, yeah, this is from a manga, because the way the action flowed did not make sense, right?
Yeah.
And it's a common problem of adaptation from a static medium to a moving medium, and it just does not work when you don't adapt it correctly. So the distances don't make sense. It looks great in a manga because from one panel to the next, it's just a faraway shot to a close-up. But in anime, you have to show that moving, and you can't have a guy running, for 5 seconds on screen when he's actually only moving 5 feet.
That's true. And I have to wonder. Well, I also have to wonder if it was originally supposed to be 13 episodes, because the ending leaves a lot dangling. As in, there were characters that we have no idea if they survived or not. The last time we saw them, things weren't looking too good, but it was never made absolutely clear what happened to them. I mean, we're talking one kid is in the middle of the water drowning, and another woman is about to be raped, and they do not show them after that. So are we just to assume that they died?
They're probably dead.
Probably. But then again, you never know, because they did a bait and switch with Teruhi. As you think I'm sorry, spoilers and whatnot, but yeah. You think it's supposed to be one way, and it turns out, no, she's got so much plot armor that she's fine. She'll walk it off.
Okay. Let's move on. So what's next? Okay. Yeah, so, this season, I thought overall the offerings were kind of weak at the beginning. And then I found 2 shows that I had not anticipated to be any good, and I actually really, really enjoyed it. And so the first one was Planet With, and then the second one was this, High Score Girl. So again, I did not prepare as well for High Score Girl as I did for Planet With, because I simply ran out of time. But High Score Girl is it's a celebration of gaming from the video games specifically, from the very early days. So from the first episode, you meet Haruo, what's his last name? Yaguchi. Haruo is just totally into games, and he likes to go to game centers, and here you see him playing Street Fighter, right? And one day he meets at the game center a classmate, and he is, I think, 5th grade or 6th grade at this point. And they're playing Street Fighter 2 for 50 yen, and the girl playing Zangief beats the crap out of him. Right? He completely loses to her in any game that he tries to challenge, and he ends up using a really lame hack, I guess, where Guile, apparently there's a technique where you just keep shooting the sonic boomerangs out, and then there's no way to defend against getting your hit points nibbled away. And so Ono, his classmate, gets pissed off at his lame tactics and decks him one. So very unusual, but you can also see it from this shot that the animation is all CG. It looks kind of stilted and janky and weird. But even then, I found it kind of charming and very different from any kind of regular 2D anime, right? In the middle of the show, there's a commercial break, and they actually go over interesting tidbits of new games that might be coming out, or this one, it was an ad for like Street Fighter on mobile, and they're showing like the different versions for Japan and for overseas. And, yeah, and the games are all very super accurate. They're essentially screen caps as far as I can tell. But Haruo is a game otaku. He has no talent. In this scene, his friends or his classmates are basically saying, dude, you're not smart. You can't even draw. You have got no talent. What are you going to do in life, right? And he's like, man, I wish I could just play games. Which, if he was born now, he could. But meanwhile, Ono, his classmate, is described as super pretty, popular, doesn't talk a whole lot, but she's very talented. She is smart, and she is from a super rich family.
She looks to also have like better eyes than half the class.
Yeah, and she is Ojo-sama, right? But she is also goddamn strong. So they're playing a game, and older kids just got pissed that they lost to her, so start harassing her, and she, Haruo tries to defend her and is kicked in the nuts for it, and she beats the crap out of the other two, like one kick and a punch, and lays them out, and they run away. So it's a really odd pairing, to say the least, but you see the beginnings of like a blossoming romance, and it's made even more strange because Ono, like, she does not speak. The girl does not speak. I don't think she has a single line. She basically like grunts occasionally when she's beating someone up, or she'll make little sighing sounds, or she'll think something's cute and lets out a little squeak, basically things like that. But the part of the attraction is that if you were a gamer, grew up on arcade games, on the early Famicom games, Nintendo, the early PlayStations, all the games are super accurate and real, right? So I've only played this a couple of times. It's Final Fight, apparently super popular at the time because you could have co-op play. Again, this is a ad that shows up. I think this is at the end of the show. I think so. Lord of Vermilion series. And then at the very end, they often have a little thing about, the arcade games. And here they're talking about Space Invaders 1978, but Crazy Climber 1980, and Puyan 1982. The games that they sometimes show in this show, in the episode, or even sometimes just in the background, or Haruo might just be talking about, oh man, that Space Invader game was crazy, and so I don't really hit that whole coin arcade gaming. I left Japan in '79, so wait, no, that's not right. Yeah, no, it was 79. So I missed that huge boom that happened, and I didn't get into it as much. So I'm watching it despite its janky animation and all that. I'm enjoying it for the romance angle. It's really sweet, actually. So other than that, it's pretty incredible that the show managed to get rights to show the game screens and gameplay and all that from all these different companies. Bandai Namco, Capcom, all these other companies, right? Sega. So that screenshot is just all the credits for the opening animation for the song, and then this is for per episode. All the companies that helped or were gave them the rights or permission to use their product and screenshots and all that. So yeah, it's an interesting show. It's really cute, blossoming romance, and it covers from when they're like in 5th grade or 6th grade, all the way currently to high school. Episode 12 aired, and it does not end. It just kind of ends on a cliffhanger, and then they have the announcement that the 3-part OVA will be coming March of next year to wrap up the series. Although the manga just concluded its long run, and they are in college, so I don't really know exactly if they're going to be able to cover all of that, but we'll find out in March on Netflix. And this is a Netflix show, so currently you're going to have to watch this through methods, okay, until Netflix releases it as a batch. But I really do enjoy the show quite a bit. So that's what I have to say about High Score Girl. No.
I mean, Alice or what?
Dead Man?
Well, it might not be that big of a chain.
No. I mean, I moved here to Seattle in 2002, so yeah, but I did not know about Wonderland. I don't even know if it exists. It's listed in Portland. So. Oh, really? And apparently it still exists. Electric Castle's Wonderland location. Some of them are cinemas too, so. Yeah, when I get news, I'll post it.
As you're pulling up the next title, I'll also ask you to reference the Hangout chat in case you haven't seen what I've been yelling about. Caps lock was not fully used. No, I said it wasn't fully used.
Well, tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, he watched the manga instead. I know I looked it up. I can't remember, but I looked it up for you, and I was like, oh, it's that studio. That explains it.
No.
What? Oh, on any list? Well, any list is kind of skewed, but I'll look it up. All right, so of the most popular of 2018, it made number 68. And of the most popular for summer 2018, it made number 18. I mean, yeah. But like, yeah, it didn't get any rating accolades, which is kind of rare because normally a show that's, yeah, anyway.
bunch of people said this is like one of the worst isekai animes, and and that's saying a lot. Okay.
So what about it makes it bad?
Yeah, because it wasn't animated. But they skip over all of that in the anime, right?
Well, they skip it at first, but they go back to it later.
Oh.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like they didn't characterize it well. They showed the brief history, but from what I'm taking away from what he's saying is it was pretty great in the book, the anime, which I'll just reference it one more time because I pulled it up and because I didn't want to not pull it up. The studio who has the credit for doing this is EMT Squared, which
Wow.
the only things that they have done, at least to the credit on MAL, which the anime achieved like a 6 out of 10, barely on MAL, like it's 5.99, is Love Tyrant or Renai Bokuen or Bokun, which was kind of like the Excel Saga kind of zaniness at first. Kuma Miko, if you remember that Bear Maiden kind of show.
Yeah.
They also did Alice
Awful.
to Alice, which is a short that I watched last
Awful.
season, which was supposed to be about a Brocon thing, like a Syscon guy, but the guy wasn't, like, to me, they didn't actually made that bleed through at all. So I'm like, it's so weird how they call him a Syscon, yet, like, the anime could have actually done way much work. Like, I didn't get that feeling from watching it. So, they don't have many titles. They also did the Rainy Days thing, and that's about it. So for like the mainstream anime that that their studio has done recently. Mhm.
Thanks for the warning.
Well, I haven't finished it yet, but I probably will. But that's kind of a testament to how not great it is because it didn't entice me to watch it before other great shows. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. It doesn't matter. I'll watch it. I'm like that. I'm very forgiving with anime because I do kind of like, even like when a studio is struggling and they're not that good, I kind of want to know like what they like what is their style, what gets them by, like, and to someone the show is going to be memorable. Like while it might not be the community at large, shows are kind of weird in that like if it's someone's first anime title for whatever reason, they'll just like earn a special place. Like you know, probably Magical Warfare is someone out there's favorite show, no matter how much anyone would diss it. So I'm not saying it's a good show, but I know everyone doesn't like Handshakers, yet it earned a special place in my heart. So it's just what
Oh
anime
my
is sometimes.
It was memorable. That's about all you can say.
But it looks like a Jessica drop.
After about 9 episodes, I saw 9 or 10, I think.
Oh, what? Not the like it. That's not like a continuing core. It's not like at 20 some. It's only like 12, right?
No, but I didn't want to put down that I'd watched the whole thing because I
Okay.
hadn't.
Okay. No. Okay. I thought you're just getting to. Okay. Okay.
No, this one, it looks like Albert watched a little bit of it too. How much did you see?
First 2 or 3 episodes. I mean, I'm planning on watching it, but I've got a couple other things I still need to finish.
Yeah, this one I'm disappointed with. The writer director was on the team that worked for Ikuhara, who is better known for Revolutionary Girl Utena, Yurikuma Arashi, and Mawaru Penguin Drum. So a lot of really, really good shows. And this one just is taking those shows and adapting them at only the surface level. So it only is copying the aesthetic and not the real meat of those other series.
Oh, I thought I turned it off.
I can't help comparing this constantly to Utena, and it just doesn't hold up to Utena. So perhaps if I didn't do that, I would have enjoyed it a little more. It's really well animated. The character designs are pretty standard. I don't think they're anything that is gonna, in a few years, if you see one of these characters, you're not gonna go, oh, that's from that show. You're gonna go, who is that? That looks kind of like Honoka from Love Live. It does. And I also can't help feeling that it's a little too on the nose with the merchandising. Is that each of the 2 main characters has a hairpin that they are constantly working with. They're putting it in their hair, they're setting it on the desk, and the anime takes time to show them taking it from a location, putting it on their hair, or holding it in their hands in front of them. And they have a backstory where they went and they bought these little hairpins. And it just seems to a cynical-minded person like they want you to run out and buy those pins really, really badly.
Well, that's kind of like, as you said, Ikuharu, whatever the name is. There's like a lot of time where that symbolism matters in the context of the story. I don't know if that's the case here, but it sounds like it could be one of those things.
It's not, and
Okay.
that's the thing is with Ikuhara is he will present a metaphor And 10 years later, anime fans will still be arguing about what that actually means. So Anthe turning into a tree. There are essays written about that. Okay? Now, this show also has visual metaphors, but they're so on the nose that even an idiot can piece it together. And it just, there's also not any depth beneath the surface. So all of Ikuhara's characters are drawn to look very cute and sweet, but in reality they are not. They're usually troubled. They have a lot of baggage. They're complex people who happen to be anime characters. And in this show, it's introduce a character, find out they have a problem, fight it out on the stage, problem goes away, go on to the next character. And there's no real growth at all. There's no degeneration. It looks like an Ikuhara show, but it isn't one.
No, no, I know. I was just wondering.
It's a shame because it's a great idea. The songs are really good. The acting, though, yeah. No, it's High Dive. Yeah.
the like the rebranded whatever thing.
They do. They do translate the words in the song on High Dive. And the lyrics are definitely important because it's describing what the characters are feeling in any given stage when they're fighting.
So like unlike all the noise that made that Symphogear a show.
Yeah. That was just a vehicle for Nana Mizuki, though. But with this one, the girls are good singers, but I don't think they've had much experience as seiyuu. They don't sound right. They don't sound convincing. So I sort of stopped because I kept hoping that the show would get its stride, get its game face on, and really start to plumb the depths of these characters. But when these characters are as deep as a puddle after a rainstorm, there's not really a whole lot that you can do. You know what? I'm 3 episodes away, so I may.
It's kind of what I was thinking at the time. I'm like, oh, how can you not?
Yeah, in for a penny, in for a pound, but I keep getting really frustrated again because I compare it to Yuri Kuma or Penguin Drum, and I think maybe if I didn't do that, if I weren't aware of who was behind the show, I would have given it a lot more leeway. Oh, and the Banana Girl. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Does she have a banana phone?
She has a banana freaking everything. Even her hair is done like bananas.
Did she take banana fish?
Oh, now that's that. Okay. Behind all of the banana fish stuff. No, banana is, again, with the character designs, it's just, what on earth were they thinking? Albert, I don't know if you have a picture on hand, but perhaps I can grab one off of Google really quick.
She'll like be brainwashed.
In their defense,
she'll have both hairpins, one on either side. Eyes like pupils dilated. This show is amazing.
Oh, where's
I found one.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, Albert, you found one?
Oh boy. Nope. Hold on a second. Save image.
So she's called Banana because her name is Nana, and her hair is. See, this is what I mean about how on the nose it is. They look like banana bunches.
With a name like Nana, there should have been 7 bananas.
Yeah, I know. Well, she has 6, so
Just saying.
yeah. But I mean, it's just
Maybe there's like one at the rear, like a ponytail, but you never see it because.
Yeah, there we go. It just doesn't. It really.
Oh, jeez, no.
I don't know how you could do that.
Oh man.
Hair doesn't work that way.
Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of like people who try to do the Gem Girls cosplay. They kind of come up with ways to make cosplay props happen. Like that's what I get amazed by sometimes at conventions.
And you know, anime girls have really weird hairstyles, but they all tend to fit with the rest of the show and the art style of the show. And this just does not gel with the way the other characters are drawn, because all of the other ones have natural, plain looking hair, except for Banana. So.
No, Hitsuji. I love that song.
Don't get that song in my head. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I hate. Oh, you are evil. Ugh. It's gonna be stuck in my head for days now.
Was it stuck in your head for days at some point of watching the show already? Oh, okay.
I never even saw the actual Bananas in Pajamas show when I was a kid, but someone played the song for me, and it got.
Oh, that's I recall what you're all talking about now. I didn't at first.
You know the horror that is.
Yeah, I recall the costume now. Yeah. Yeah, that was a show I never really watched, but now I do vaguely recall it at the very least. Woohoo! Yeah, it continued. It was a 2-core. So I can talk about it now. And yes, it's finished at like 23 episodes, I believe. It's not going on to 24. Yeah. Or like it did have a really big credit roll, and it had like a coda, and I'm looking at it right now. It's definitely 23 episodes. So where to begin with this one? Steins Gate kind of took the U.S. like by storm back in 2011. It was kind of like a gateway anime for most people because it drew a lot of people to watch it for some reason. Although the nuance was somewhat wasted on me, because while I do like a lot of the, as we will call them at all times, semicolon series, it never really impressed me. The premise of Steins Gate was there was a Shunibyo, a delusional, like, mad scientist guy who made crazy inventions, and he tried to make a time machine. Well, he got the help of an actual really smart physicist, scientist, a long-haired redhead, and they actually kind of came up with a lot of working time manipulation proof of concepts. Like, for example, in the first series, they had the ability to send, like, pager beep emails to the past to try to change the future. And towards the end of that series, I believe they made a time leap machine. It was able to send one person's thoughts to their past self with a limit of like 2 days. So the premise of the first series, just because I want to talk about it for anyone who maybe hasn't seen it, is pretty much when they come up with how to do D-mail, I guess dimensional mail, email to the past basically, they want to see what they can do with it. Like what good could D-mail do the world, but like not like change too much, like Back to the Future stuff kind of here. So they're like, he gets with his like 5 or 6 or 7 closest friends and goes, hey, like what one aspect of your life would you like changed? They come up with something and they collectively go, well, how can we change that? Send an email to the past. The main protagonist has a unique ability. It's called reading Steiner, meaning whenever he himself or somebody else causes something to change, like whenever like a time machine or D-mail or thought thing to the past happens, the world changes around him. So like everybody else, he like jumps into a world line where, you know, like let's just say in one example, they changed the gender of a character through the use of D-mail. Well, to everyone else, that person was always that way, but to him, you know, the experiment was a success because he didn't change. He stayed the same, whereas everyone else just grew up in that world. Like the world changed around him is kind of what I'm trying to say. The premise of the first series was, with all the changes to the past they made, they found out that in his current world line that he's in, his childhood friend ends up dying. And no matter what he uses D-mail for to try to save her life, she always ends up dying, where he comes up with like a world convergence theory, meaning something is always going to happen for some reason. So like no matter how hard you try to prevent it, if that's where the world lines converge on, it's going to happen. So he had to come up with a way, well, how do I get out of this world line then? If this is always going to happen, I don't want my childhood friend to die. So I forget the reasoning, but they basically come up with they have to undo the changes to the past they made. So they have to like use D-mail once again to like, you got to forgive me. This was 2011. It was quite a long time ago. But essentially they undo all the changes to the past. The childhood friend doesn't die. And that's most of the story of the original Steins Gate, told across like 24 episodes. But what we come to find out is near the end of that, because he caused that change of the one childhood friend living, the scientist that he also kind of like that helped him with a lot of the time theory ended up kind of dying in her place. Not really, just at a different time. It's not like the exact day. They just swap places. But now he's in an endless loop of her dying. And he's tried time and time again to save everybody. In the beginning of this series, he's broken. He's kind of given up. He calls his ideal world of both like everybody living happily and World War III not happening, because World War III is fought over time machines existing because other organizations, like kind of like FBI level organizations, have found out about time machine theory and they want to be the first to have it. He kind of gave up on trying to save her, and that really scarred him as a person. And that's actually what I come to appreciate about the series. It showed a lot of character growth. I didn't really care about the first season so much, with them changing the past, them having to change it back, and all that happening. But I really enjoyed the second season, because I did like looking at the characters in a future light, and Steins Gate Zero is told in such a way that he kind of gives up. Like, he wants to bury time machines. He doesn't want to make the theory anymore. He wants it to fade away from the world. He doesn't want there to be a conflict. He's not going to save the life of the one person. He's just giving all that up because it's too much of a pain / hassle. And he comes to find out that throughout the series, now this is a little spoilery, he's much too late. The other organizations of the world know too much, and the future is still going to go to hell. Like World War III is still kind of going to happen because the other organizations know too much. And it takes a certain chain of events to get him trying to reach Steins Gate again in this series, and how they did it was really freaking cool. I don't know what I want to spoiler, because I really want people to watch the show. And like, does anyone here present care about how much I spoiler like one of the cooler things that he did?
Well, I was gonna play the game eventually, but hopefully by the time I get around to playing it, I'll have forgotten. So.
Geez, I don't know. Yeah, and like
sounds like a major plot point. You should probably skip it.
Okay. It was really cool though, and I really liked how they did it. Like I liked the premise all of a sudden. Like I liked his involvement. I all of a sudden really liked how intrinsic to the story this technology was. It really drew me in, and of course it's to the later side of Steins Gate Zero, because the first kind of, I don't know, maybe 12, or the first arc was him kind of burying that past, only to have it kind of rear its ugly face once again, and him who was almost at the forefront of developing that technology, trying to make, you know, the world basically a better place and not go to hell over countries fighting over a time machine. But one thing I will at least say, since I'm trying not to talk about too many spoilers, is at the end of episode 23, we have a huge credit roll. I mean, like, you know, blackout, no scenery, just the credit roll. There's kind of a coda that happens at the end. It's not a very long one, but I'm not a diehard, say, Doctor Who fan, but I'm like, that's the coolest time machine scientist thing I think anime might ever produce. Like, it was just awesome, and I loved it. And it, like, endeared this series to me way much more than episode 1 was ever, episode 1. The original series out of 2012 or 11 was able to achieve. So I'm like really wanting to get season 2 now, and I still don't know how I feel about season 1. It's kind of important, but to me, season 2 was amazing. I liked it so, like, a lot more than the premise of the first season, which again was, let's make changes to the past and then undo them for reasons. The narrative that they made this for the second core was so much beyond that, and I loved it. To me, it might not be the best paced show out there, but it kind of stands special all of a sudden. Like, if this is what the games like talked about, now I'm finally finding out about it. I'm like, okay, I can kind of see what the big deal was. But again, I remember the big deal being season 1 is what drew a lot of attention to the title that was Steins Gate, and most people were talking about watching season 1, where, you know, like, kind of reviewing or just generally talking about anime back at that day. And like I said, to me, it just wasn't that special. Like, it was all right. I enjoyed watching it, but it wasn't that special. And Steins Gate Zero, while it took a little while to tell that story, when it's trying to resolve that story, it's very much so worth it, in my opinion.
Sounds great. So, just making a quick announcement. I hope my microphone is fixed. Someone was sharing with us on YouTube, Aki-chan. Thank you for notifying me. Hopefully, things are working now. Our next title. Are we ready to go to the next title?
Sure.
The next title we have is Hanebado. Seems like Jessica is the one that watched this with a little bit from Albert.
Yes, I haven't seen the last episode. I think it just came out.
All I saw were a few complaints about the last episode.
I was just wondering how much Albert has seen, because I don't want to spoil the story for him, because it's pretty good.
First 3 episodes. It's one of those I was going to try to finish for this and could not make it.
Oh, well, it is worth it. It's worth the journey. Okay. I don't really know much about badminton as a sport, so I don't know how accurate it is to badminton, but it hits a lot of the same story beats as other sports anime, but it has a bit more gravitas involved as to why people play. Why do people play a sport? Because it takes up a lot of time, it's physically demanding, and in some ways it's emotionally demanding as well. And the main character, Akane, has this love-hate relationship with badminton because her mother was an Olympic badminton player. Badminton? I don't know. And her mother just up and left one day, and Akane always thought it was her fault that she wasn't as good at badminton as she could be to impress her mother. So there's a lot of emotional baggage all tied into the sport and the interpersonal relationships with the characters. Not to mention, it's extremely well animated. There's tons of Sakuga in here, if that's your jam. You definitely want to check it out for that alone. Especially the opening song is gorgeously animated. So if you don't like sports anime, that's fair, but you really owe it to yourself to at least watch the opening song, because it's just that cool looking. So I do recommend it. I'm not really a sports person, but I like this. And so it's a testament to this particular story that it's able to capture somebody who would, never run unless somebody is chasing after her. So I'm very sedentary.
Jessica, I just have one question.
Sure.
Does this series lighten up a little? Because, like, from what I remember, it was pretty heavy.
No, I would say it maintains the same tone throughout the show. And like I said, I haven't watched the last episode, so I don't know what note it ends on. It could go either way at this point.
Well, I'll definitely check it out when I get the time.
Mm-hmm. This one is one that I looked forward to every week. So with a release schedule of a lot of meh, this one rose to the top for me.
So it was a sports anime. It wasn't just drama.
Well, it has a little bit about the more technical side of the sport, but it's balanced in such a way that it doesn't take over the focus, or the lens of the show is not made in mind of, oh, well, this is a backhand move, or what are they going to do next kind of thing. Is that they'll say something like, Akane is left-handed, and that gives her an advantage in badminton. After 12 episodes, I have no idea why, because they never explain.
Mhm.
You're just supposed to know that, okay, her being left-handed is somehow makes her more powerful than other characters. And again, since my badminton knowledge is zero, I don't know if that's true or if the anime is just making that like the win button for Akane. But it doesn't do the shonen thing of, oh, well, this attack means this, and in having the sideline characters commenting on the match. There's a little bit of the comments, but they actually cheer for the competitors. And that's not something I see in a lot of sports anime, where when they cut away to the spectators, their friends and their family are like, come on, you can do it, good job. And you don't see that. Normally, the audience serves as the exposition characters to tell the viewer what's actually going on. And this show doesn't do that, which I think is a good thing.
All right. So are we go to the next title, or do you want to say anything else? Cause
Nope. That's pretty much all I got to say.
I don't know. Were you trying to sell it like we should watch it, or?
Oh, I did a bad job if you don't even know. Yeah, you should. You should watch it.
Okay. I'm sorry. Just
No, that's fine.
I may try to continue on then.
I
To
would
me,
say
it felt
that,
like it was kind of heavy, and I was like, I'm not ready for this.
well, if that's the case, it's probably not your cup of tea, because there's not a tonal shift later on in the series. So if it's too heavy for you now, it's not going to lighten up later.
Okay.
So I'm being honest.
I'll bookmark it then and then watch it later when I finally get in the mood. I did that to a few titles and finished them this season.
Mm-hmm.
The next step we got is this weird island title
Weird indeed.
about strangeness. Nick, tell us.
Incidentally, time machines again. No, I'm not a fan of time machines. Give me just one moment. All right. So, unfortunately, I was planning on doing like a really big spoiler thing, but I think Tank, you said you were planning on watching it. Were you? Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've just got a few episodes left in Island. I
Darn.
was, I was watching them in batches, so like I
Yeah.
would like.
No, there's kind of something revealed in the last episode that it was kind of hinge what I thought about the series. So I don't know if I can talk about it really, unless you just mute.
You can talk about it. I mean, it's not like it's a great show to me that I'm like,
Okay, okay,
I want no spoilers at all. To me, it was just one of those shows I was like, I'm going to watch it because I know that voice actress and I like her.
okay,
So.
okay.
But
So
other than
yes,
that,
I started watching Island because its aesthetics look all right, and it did introduce a mystery. Now, if you recall, Island was a series in which a main character wakes up on the beach having amnesia. He can't even remember his own name or anything. He comes to find out that the island he woke up on is really strict and has a lot of mysteries on it itself. Now, normally, the island itself is not friendly to people who don't already inhabit it, so they don't really like tourists, and they don't really like them to stay. One of the island's other mysteries is it has a unique sickness to itself, one that has an affliction with sunlight. If certain people who are afflicted with what's translated called soot blight syndrome, they develop a sickness which could be, but is not necessarily fatal. It also kind of depends on how much sun exposure you had. So, there was one mystery at play here where we were trying to find out why that sickness only exists on this island. And we also had to deal with the character's amnesia. Now, he eventually kind of settles on the vague names that he recalls. He kind of thinks his name's Setsuna, so he goes with that. He meets a wide cast of characters, namely Rene, sorry, I have trouble saying some of their names sometimes, and Karen and Sara are part of like the three big families that inhabit the island. The island has, three families that one is like the mayor of everything, but the other two families are politically important as well. So they're highly intrinsic to the story. I was kind of wondering what story it was going to tell. How is our character going to come out of amnesia? Why does he think he's from the future? What's all going on here? He slowly comes to find out some of the island's darker secrets, and a lot of the other characters, parts of the three main families, like their innermost fears and kind of like what drives them as people. Like, what is it they're trying to achieve? What is it they're worried about? We come to find that out throughout like the first 10 episodes. At the end of that 10 episode branch, we come to find out that Rene, the long-haired kind of silver-haired girl, has to go to this island because there's a different Setsuna that she remembers being there, and she wants to see if he's okay. Well, they get to this island, and they find out that no, he's not okay. He's kind of been dead, and there is a time machine that they find there. And they pretty much go back home. They leave it there. They don't really mess with it. They're like, oh, what's this thing do? We don't know. Let's leave it be. It might be I forget what they talk about it. They decide to go home. Well, as they're heading home, there's a storm. Now, the storm is believed to actually cause like time travel to be possible, so that's kind of what one of the characters was going for. But we kind of have this reverse Titanic moment where the long silver-haired girl dies. So the boy from the future essentially kind of goes, well, I think I might have failed what I was trying to do because I really want to save her life. So he gets the idea to go into like the time machine and go into the future, to which the time machine was kind of made to go back in time and save her. Convoluted, I know, but let's go with it. So he enters like a cold sleep in this machine, and he wakes up in the distant future where almost like reincarnations of those three characters exist in the future. We come to find out that humanity is kind of surviving in a makeshift shelter. It's like a multi-story shelter underground. The conditions outside are kind of ice age, and resources such as like battery electrical power, food, and water are running low. So much so that it has to be metered to the public. Most of the society dons a ID tag that they wear around their neck, and as long as you have an ID tag, you have access to rations. They're trying to curb the population and not let basically people have a bunch of kids and run out of resources sooner, because humanity's approaching a finite end, because the rest of the world is assumably inhospitable, from which a few exploration teams have been able to find out. Again, we don't know why the future is this way, it just is. As he's in the future, he actually comes across basically the person who's building the time machine based off salvaged like technology from when, you know, humanity was in full swing and not living in a basically bomb shelter. So she finishes the time machine and he's like, okay, along that way, a few more characters die and he wants to save them. And that's when his memory, because when he wakes up in the future, he has amnesia all over again. I forgot to mention. He can't remember why he's in the future. So he just starts living in the future. Develops bonds with people there. Yeah. Well, as the talk about the machine being a time machine comes about, he kind of remembers his escapades on the island and what he kind of had to do. Now he's kind of torn. Does he help the people in the future? Does he go back into his past to help the girl in his past? He's pretty much told by the girl who made it that you should go to the past and save her, and in the process, try making the future not end up this way at all. And then you wouldn't have to save the people because hopefully things wouldn't be this dire. So that's kind of what they settle in on, and he goes to the past in a time machine. Except this time when he wakes up, he doesn't have amnesia. He still kind of wakes up naked on the beach for some reason. I don't know why the time machine works that way. To me, that's a freaking plot hole. I don't understand it. That's a discredit to the series, because here's why I have to say this. This is where I kind of wonder where this series is going. Yes, it's over at 12 episodes, but is there something more to it? Are we ever going to see maybe a second season? I doubt it, but here's why I think there's room for it. When he wakes up in the past, he comes to find out that, you know, he starts helping with everybody's problems that it took him the first 6 episodes to do. He's solving them lightning speed, and he's able to save the life of the one girl. But that leaves what to do about the future. And as he's kind of worrying about that, he kind of comes to this realization based off an old photo that he sees. He starts kind of making a connection that the long silver-haired girl, Renee, and this is like a huge spoiler for Tank here, looks a lot like the person from the future. As I told you, they were like incarnations from people from the past. There's not really a good scientific reason for that, like not one that I'm going to present, but what I was going to tell you is he comes to find out that the reason why she looks so similar to the person in the future is the time machine doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a time machine. What is revealed in episode 12 is, for some reason, at certain intervals, the world kind of starts over. Meaning at the Stone Age specifically. So like meaning somewhere around that point in the future where humanity's living in a bomb shelter, let's just say like this happens at millions of years intervals. So like at the year 1 million, you have the Stone Age, and if humanity starts over, at the year 2 million, it's the Stone Age again, but it's still like the same Earth. That's never explained, and that's why I wonder if we're going to get a second season. But what they're really inventing is not time machine, but cold stasis machines, and they're simply waking up in the future where history started over all again. So the time machine, again, doesn't exist. It's just a cold stasis machine, and you're waking up in the future that's just restarted in the past for some reason. And he kind of comes to realize that, again, this is a huge spoiler for Tank, that the person who had Renee, the silver-haired girl of the series he was trying to save, is the person from the future that he got with, making Renee his own daughter. The person, when they realized they made a cold stasis machine, and our protagonist wasn't going to the past, she started work, I guess, immediately on a second one. Went into cold stasis herself and just woke up a few years earlier. Well, actually, like 17 years earlier than the protagonist of the series. She also had amnesia at the time, but she was able to quickly snap out of amnesia due to, let's just say, the pregnancy. And here's kind of where I'm torn. The series ends happy-go-lucky. You know, the two kind of get back. He doesn't end up with his daughter because, like, although his daughter developed feelings for him, when this is all revealed, of course, it doesn't go all incestuous. They don't go into why history resets. That's still a mystery. And we never talked about the people afflicted with Soot Blight syndrome. That was never solved. So while I don't think we're going to get a season 2 right away or ever, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens once upon a time in the future. Because this series was a little bit weird, but still pretty cool for what it was. Like, I wouldn't say it's a terribly told story. While not rife with fan service, it did kind of have a lot of the not cute girls doing cute things, but you know, it heavily relied in the overall aesthetic of its female predominant cast to sell its characters and its weird spin on telling a story, which I overall appreciated. Not quite what I got from Steins Gate, but it was an interesting story through and through, and I don't dislike it.
So I know you say not too much fan service, but the things that they did kind of show, I could see why people could be turned off on it.
Yes. Yeah.
So do you think they should try to push past that to get to the story? Or
well, like I said, since I just kind of, if you heard someone ruin it for you, then perhaps not. But would it have told an interesting story? I don't think you get stories like this a ton out of anime. I think it was a pretty cool attempt to kind of tell its, like, I think it's a really cool thing for a lot of people to check out. I'm just not sure if it's ever going to have the second season or not. Again, I'm not pushing for one, but there's some, like, 2 really big untold mysteries here, and they still got room for spinning more drama. I don't think it'll happen, but it's kind of weird to end a series with 2 unanswered questions. And let me spin back a moment to what I told you about. They made cold stasis machines. When they enter these machines, we see them in like a frozen, like there's a blue swirly animation. They're like essentially cryo frozen in time. And typically you would think that if you're frozen in a machine, the machine pops open and you're in the machine. How do these people exit the machine and wind up naked on a beach? Well, they enter the machine naked, so that's how they're naked. But, like, why do they always wake up on a beach? What happens to the machine they were suspended in? To me, that's kind of a plot hole, and the series, I don't think, ever discussed it. But again, a little more to its nuance. And, like, what was the deal with, like, getting amnesia from being in cold stasis? I have no clue.
all right. But I can't say much. I got pretty far into this series, like to the whole he woke up in that dystopia place and was
Yeah, I
trying to
figure.
survive there. So I got that far at least. But
I think it's kind of interesting because while it has like notes of romance and not like true fan service, but some kind of like potentially H moments, with, you know, the cast playing around, it has a lot of darkness to it, as far as like that dystopian future and some of the tones of the history of some of the characters. Like if you remember Sarah, the like Afro-haired girl, she kind of has like a dark past, and like its tale is told in such a way where it's almost light-hearted darkness, but I think because of that, it's not a purely positive story, and that's why I think there's some intrigue to the series. But if it's something you're not getting into, I wouldn't recommend pursuing it. But I mean, it's one of the things I finished sooner than later, so like there was some element about it that kept me watching it, say, more than the one that you disliked the most from this season, but the Shakuren Valkyria thing. But
all right.
I was really intrigued in finding out the mystery about it. So I think a lot of times when you pit that kind of a mystery, it's just more of a compulsion to watch a show. And if you don't care about it, then you don't care about it. You know, don't check out the show. But
All right. Well,
So yeah,
I think that'll be it for this session. Thank you all for joining us and being here with us so late. Thank you, Albert, Nick,
Mhm.
Jessica. Call out to you too if you ever watch the end of this.
I showered it with a kid.
We do have quite a few titles to go through next week that are going to be great. We saved some of the best for last because they're
Oh,
not
yeah.
finished at all. And hopefully, if you want to join us, let me know. Send me an email, send me a Hangout notification. If you want to join us, what requirements are needed? Not much is needed. Albert joined us, what was it, last week on a phone? Or 2 weeks ago?
Something like that.
Or not last week, but the last two videos, I should say. So really all you need is a phone. And
I was able to do it once.
So hopefully I'll get my computer issues fixed up, or I can do it again with the tablet. It's actually working better here. And other than that, Kyoka is on Crunchyroll. So if you never got to see that, you should watch that. I love that show. And what is it? Is it like right now in the theaters they're doing a lot of the Miyazaki movies right now again for October?
Yes, for like the second or third year in a row.
Yeah, so like this month, actually it's tonight, Monday, tomorrow night, and Wednesday night is Totoro in theaters in the US. So go to G Kids or Fathom events and check it out. And I think that next month will be, or later this month will be Spirited Away, and next month will be Lapita.
Mm-hmm.
If you'll give me just a moment, I do have some theater kind of update event things aside from that. I think there's one that I just missed because so Crunchyroll has movie nights and they're really shotgun about it. They don't really give you a lot of notice, and I don't really know their theater outlook because I haven't checked out a Crunchyroll movie, but they did have the volleyball Haikyuu movie in theaters like last week or something. Like I said, they don't give a ton of notice, and yeah, it was September 19th, 22nd, and 23rd. Before that, they did Bungo Stray Dogs, which I didn't go check. So again, I'm not sure how many theaters they're grabbing because I just haven't felt compelled to check out one of their films. But just to promote it, that you can go to the Crunchyroll a website called like Crunchyroll Movie Night, and I have to keep tabs of that one because they don't give you a lot of notice. There is going to be Laughing Under the Clouds, Gardens Part 1 and 2 in theaters August 24th. Oh, wait, no, that already happened. Upcoming. Jeez. There's a new sci-fi film coming out called The Laws of the Universe Part 1. I don't think it has any dates set up. That one's under 11 Arts, which has done quite a few movies so far. So if you want to check out a trailer, go ahead, look up The Laws of the Universe. Its CG effects look pretty cool, but I don't know. It was a weird mix of like CG heavy effects, but then like normal 2D animation. So it's going to be kind of weird to see that moshed up together. But check out the trailer if you want to see how that one's going to look. I'm not sure when. Theaters. It looks like it's going to be in October 12th through the 18th, but around the 12th and 13th. Only one theater has 18th at the latest, and there's not a lot of theaters. This is one where I might have to go to the Music Box in Chicago if I want to do this, because there's only like 6 current states present in the list. So this one you might have to travel to if you really want to see it. Other than that, they have a music drama coming out called Liz and the Bluebird that will be in theaters, a lot more theaters, around November 9th, 10th, and 12th. You can look up the synopsis or the trailer to see if it's something you want to do. It looks like it has a heavy drama. I don't know what overtones are going to be present, but there's kind of like my warning signs of fancy looking instruments and potentially a lot of music playing, which I normally don't like, but I know there's a lot of people who like those kinds of stories. That Your Lie in April was kind of a popular one. Aside from that, I think that's it from the most part. I do know we still haven't had any confirmation on when part 2 of Heaven's Feel will be in theaters. They have another drama story. Who are they? Jesus, I'm blinking on their name right there now. It's Aniplex. Aniplex of America is going to have. It's titled very oddly. It's called something like I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. It sounds like a zombie title, but it actually has to do with someone who has I think what's the term? I don't use it
Terminal
enough.
illness.
Terminal illness. And there's like a drama story that unfolds in high school around this terminal illness. So I totally thought it would be a zombie flick, but it wasn't. And I think it's in theaters now. I forget where, but there's the My Hero Academy film that they promoted in like an episode in theaters right now from Funimation. I'm not sure if you would have missed it by now or not, but it's just out there for anyone who likes the My Hero Academy stuff. It'll be on Blu-ray eventually.
Who likes that show?
People do. It's a
Just
popular
feels like
shonen one that I don't. Yeah, I know you guys probably wouldn't, but it's an honorable mention.
No, it's actually I like it. It's good. I've yet to watch all of it, but it's good. Like yeah, Attack on Titan.
Hmm.
Like
So that one I think
confidently
is going on
second
like
season.
now or ending soon, but yeah. We don't have dates on the Pancreas one, just an early announcement, so I don't know when that one's going to be showing, but that's my current knowledge about movies.
All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and say goodbye to everyone. If you want to figure out what Albert's eating, just check Google. Posts a lot of that. When he goes camping, always have fun reading this. Sorry, Albert.
No problem.
But next time, make sure to caption your acorns with konnichiwa, please.
Yep.
Or pine cones. I
pine
prefer
cones.
pine cones.
Pine cones, I'm sorry. Nick, thank you for joining us again.
Not a problem.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a nice evening or night.